Hi, my name is Daniel Loftus, and I'm going to show you in this video how I use Adobe Illustrator to communicate design specifications that work in practice regardless of my company resources location or the language of the employee who is working with my design specification. My video will use a hypothetical example. Commodore USA, a PC company that was popular in the 80s and 90s, has recently made a comeback as a player in the PC market. I'm going to imagine that I'm an employee at Commodore. I've been assigned a project involving Commodore and an ODM in China. This project involves me making a new faceplate for Commodore. Commodore has negotiated an agreement with this ODM. This ODM just happens to manufacture the Xbox for Microsoft. But because the ODM has rights over the hardware that it manufactures for Microsoft, the ODM has chosen to give Commodore the right to resell its Xbox hardware as well. So I will rebrand the Xbox hardware with the Commodore logo. Each color that is used on my faceplate will increase the cost of production. So Commodore wants me to contain these costs and has requested that only 3 colors be used. The blue that's in the logo of the original Commodore logo, and silver and dark gray. In my experience, Adobe Illustrator files are used widely to disseminate logo and branding content. Adobe Illustrator files use vector images, which are graphic components whose contents don't degrade in quality when they're resized. To rebrand my Xbox faceplate, I'm going to show you how I find vector files of the Commodore logo and Xbox faceplate on the internet. I know I can find these files because I know that in the real world, Microsoft and Commodore have partnered with many companies, or ODMs, to disseminate their brand, and it's likely that I will find a website that has ended up posting their file for the purpose of this dissemination. As you can see, a quick Google allows me to locate an Adobe Illustrator version of the faceplate. I found it in an arts and crafts website hosted in Switzerland, and I downloaded the file. Now, just like with the Xbox faceplate, I can find a Commodore Vector logo simply by Googling it. Now, under normal conditions, I would simply request a copy of the faceplate file and the logo from the hardware provider or the ODM, but the internet has definitely filled the gap in this case. Now I will open the AI file containing the faceplate. First, I will remove any unnecessary artifacts. The three-dimensional view of the Xbox is not needed on the artboard. I will use the white space in the middle of the workspace for other purposes. I will rotate the faceplate object, and then I will reposition it in the corner of the workspace so that I can add metadata. Later you will see how such metadata is critical to making sure that anyone who has access to this file, regardless of their location, can get the information that they need from it. The cutout regions are the closed paths, or lines, of the faceplate inside of the primary body of the faceplate that the printer should cut out, rather than simply mark with ink. As is the industry standard, I'm going to define the cutout paths of the faceplate using a magenta color. I've clicked the selection tool located in the top left corner of the Tools panel and selected my first path that I will designate as a cutout path. I clicked on the closed path directly from the artboard, but I could have also selected it from the Layer panel. In the Color panel, I've confirmed that the stroke box is selected. The stroke box is currently set to black. In the Swatch panel, I clicked the default magenta color. The path I selected now displays a magenta color, as does the corresponding stroke box, which you can't see. I'm going to do this for all the closed paths that I want the printer to cut out. You will notice that I have not changed all the closed paths in the interior of the Xbox to magenta. The faceplate of the Xbox contains closed paths, which are disconnected from the primary body of the faceplate, but should still be printed. They will not be defined using a magenta color. I will define their boundaries like the perimeter of the Xbox is defined with the black color. You will notice that the closed paths in the bottom left portion of the faceplate is magenta. Unlike the other magenta paths, it has no corresponding interior closed path that is stroked with black. I am directing the printer to eliminate the complete interior of this closed path from the faceplate. I define the remaining cutout paths. Now I will open the Commodore 64 vector logo file. Before merging the Commodore 64 logo file with the Xbox faceplate file, I'm going to change its colors. I could do this later, but it's easier to do it when there are less layers. I've expanded the layers in the Layer panel, and I've selected the location of the layers containing the paths whose colors I will now change. The eyedropper tool is automatically selected while my mouse hovers over the color panel. I choose Key White from the far right side of the default color panel color picker. The colors I selected are changed to the selected white color. Now I will locate and select the closed path containing the perimeter of the logo in the layer panel. I'll select the Swatch Libraries icon located in the bottom left corner of the panel. I select Color Books from the menu and I select the Pantone Solid Colored Color Book. The Pantone Solid Coded Swatch Library Color Book appears. I select 877C from the Pantone Solid Coded Color Book. I mouse over the artboard and select Ctrl-A to select all of the paths in the artboard that are part of the faceplate. I cut the paths, and now I'll close the Commodore logo file without saving it. Now I will combine the artwork from both vector files into one Adobe Illustrator file. First, I will create a new layer in the Layers panel by clicking on the New Layer button in the right part of the Layers panel. Then I will paste the revised Commodore logo from the previous step into the artboard of the Xbox faceplate file. The logo is displayed. I want to eliminate the 64 in the Commodore logo, but a compound path has been created which encompasses all of the text in the logo. I will use the Direct Selection tool located at the top of the tools bar on the right to select just the 6 and the 4. I've selected the 6 and the 4. I've also selected the perimeter of the logo, so now I will go to the Layer panel and deselect the closed path that contains the perimeter of the logo and hit the Delete key. I am ready now to position the Commodore logo in the top left long closed path, where it will be on the final version of the faceplate. The width of the logo doesn't need to change as much as the height to fit there, so I will modify the height. The current height of the Commodore logo is located in the Info panel. It is 14.804 millimeters. I write this number down. Now I will use the Direct Selection tool to determine the height of the long closed path in the top left panel. After I select the path, the Info panel displays its height. I write this number down. I divide the height of the path by the height of the Commodore logo. I record the number. Then, using the Selection tool, I click and select the layer containing the Commodore logo. I select Object, Transform, Scale. In the Uniform Scale field, I enter my calculation. I click OK. The logo is resized in height to fit the path where it will be featured in the final version. Using the arrow keys and the magnifying glass, I position the logo precisely where it will go. The original gray background is there and it overlaps, but that is okay. I'm keeping it there so that I can see the white colors in the logo. I'll delete it later. I'm going to set it up so anyone who looks at this file can easily determine the 3 colors I'm using in the faceplate. I choose a space on the faceplate where the colors will be easy to see, and I create a new layer to contain the data in the Layer panel. After selecting the Rectangle tool from the Tools panel, I create a rectangle and position it on the artboard. The rectangle, of course, is automatically selected. I cut the rectangle and paste a duplicate onto the artboard. I do this again, and then I position them on the page in the space I have chosen where they will be easy to see. I'll align the rectangles using the Align panel. I select Window, Align. The Align panel appears. I click on the horizontal Align Left button. The boxes are aligned to the left. And now I will complete one last step, which is to get rid of the overlapping Commodore logo background without losing sight of the logo text and bars. Using the Selection tool, I select the logo. In the Layers panel, I find the layer which corresponds with the logo background. I hit the Delete key. It now appears like the logo has disappeared, but it will reappear once I change the background for the closed path within which the logo is still contained. I use the Selection tool and click on the closed path. Then, in the Color panel, I select the Fill box. In the Pantone Solid Coded Color Library Color Book, I select 877C. The background of the closed path containing the color book turns gray and the logo reappears. Let's now get started with assigning Pantone colors to regions of the faceplate. Why does this faceplate need to use Pantone information? Pantone is certified to meet the color requirements of ISO. Pantone is internationally used to manufacture colored paint, fabric, and plastics. It allows designers to color match specific colors when a design enters production stage, regardless of the equipment used to produce the color. First, I want to color the interior of the primary body of the faceplate with Pantone 877C. Each edge of the Xbox faceplate is a separate open path, so rather than select them using the Selection tool, I will select them in the Layer panel. I will place the selected paths in a new layer. Then, I'll select Object, Path, Join. This ensures that Illustrator recognizes the perimeter of the Xbox as a single entity. Then I confirm the Draw Normal tool is selected from the Tools panel, and I move to the Swatches panel and select Pantone 877C. I return to the Layers panel and select the layer containing the perimeter of the Xbox and move it to the bottom of all the layers. This makes it easier to visually discern the other colors which will be contained in layers on top of this layer. Now I want to retrieve the blue color that is used in the Commodore logo so that I can use it in the Xbox faceplate. I reopen the Commodore 64 file. In the Tools panel, I select the Direct Selection tool located on the top right side, and then in the Layers panel, I expand the layer containing the logo's paths. There I find the path associated with the bluish bar on the logo, and I click on it. The bluish bar is selected. In the Color panel, I make note the color. I have CMYK, C is equal to 100%. I make a note of this. To estimate the closest Pantone color to cyan, I'm going to use the custom color picker in Photoshop. I launch Photoshop. In Photoshop's Tools panel, I double-click the color picker. The color picker wizard is displayed. I enter the CMYK values as recorded in my last step in Illustrator. I click the Custom button. The custom color picker appears. Photoshop estimates the closest color in Pantone values. It also displays the corresponding CMYK values. In this case, the processed cyan Pantone color is displayed as the closest approximate to the color I've entered. I close Photoshop. I return to the faceplate file. I'm going to select the portions of the faceplate that will be cyan. In this case, it will be the two ports on the front which, while distinct and separate from the faceplate, also feature port covers which match the look and feel of it. In the Layer panel, I click on the layer containing the port cover. In the Swatch panel, I will open the Pantone solid-coated color book and find the color for processed cyan and select it. The layer containing the port cover is now cyan. I'll do the same for the other cover. I'll also add labels to the port covers. First, I'll create a layer for the labels titled Text. Then I will select the Text tool from the toolbar, not seen here. Over the first blue port cover region, I enter the text Cartridge Port A. I want to make sure that it's the correct font size and font type, and then I'll create a second text box and enter the text Cartridge Port B. I'll position the text so that it is centered in the middle of the port cover. I'll select both text boxes. Under Type, I select Create Outlines. The text is now displayed as shapes in the Layers panel. I've changed the text to outline form because some ODMs work with software that do not have English type installed on their machines. Using outline form bypasses the need to have language or font installed on the printer in order for the machine to read the file. It means that Adobe Illustrator will recognize the type displayed as shapes rather than text. The text might still not be aligned, so I will select Window, Align, and click the vertical Align bottom button. The text is perfectly aligned. For my final Pantone color designation, I'll change the color of the Commodore logo to dark gray. I use the Selection tool to select the Commodore logo from the Layer panel. Next, I'll go to the Pantone solid-coated color book and select Pantone 7545C. Instead of white, the Commodore logo now displays a dark gray color. I'm now going to add metadata to the AI file. The metadata will enable employees of the ODM and its partner companies to readily access the important data from the file, even if they don't have Adobe Illustrator. First, I'm going to use the Swatch panel to color in the rectangles I created earlier with Pantone 877C, Pantone Cyan, and Pantone 7545C. Then I will select the Text tool and create text boxes within which I will add labels for each of the colors. I will use PMS, which stands for Pantone Matching System, as the designator. Because the ODM is located in China and they may forward this file to a vendor who does not speak English, I will include the Chinese name for these Pantone colors as well, which I found on Google. So that it's easy for the printer to know what type of printer should be used, I'm going to add the basic dimensions of the faceplate. I'm going to use millimeters as the standard of measurement so that it complies with ISO standards. Finally, I will also add trim marks. Trim marks provide an additional means for owners of the soft copy version of the faceplate to quickly verify the correct location of each cutout that it contains. First, I'll create a layer in the Layer panel that will act as a container for my trim marks. I'll name this layer Trim Marks. And then from the Layer panel, I will select the first path for which I would like to display trim marks, the most obvious candidate being the perimeter. I'll then go to Object, Create Trim Marks, and the trim marks are displayed. I'll do this repeatedly for each cutout region for which I display trim marks, and I'll move each set of trim marks that Illustrator creates for me to the trim marks layer so that they can be easily made visible and invisible. To show you just how easy this is, I'll toggle the visibility of the trim mark layer. Because the trim marks are all in one layer, their visibility can be turned on and off with one click. So now you can see the final product. This concludes my demonstration of how to create an ISO-compliant faceplate. If you have any feedback, please feel free to email me at daniel@danielloftus.com.